So, the end of day one, and South Africa are in a weird position, I would say. It's 314 for 8 after the day's play. And it started off brilliantly, of course, but the end I wasn't really that happy with. But we'll discuss it on today's show because this is the review show of the day one of the first test between South Africa and the West Indies. But before we get going, before we get started, there's just a couple of things that I would like you guys to do. Please subscribe to this channel. Please click that notification bell as well for all future videos. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, and share. And also download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. The link is on the screen right now, as well as in the description. Also, if you want to help us grow and promote South African cricket and make our lives a lot easier, then please become a Patreon today. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. You can also help us grow as a company as well as us help South African cricket grow as well while you do that too. Then also go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all your regular updates. Okay, so without further ado, guys, let's get straight into this. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this one. We're going to discuss everything that happened between South Africa and the West. A very good evening and welcome to Cricket Fanatics magazine. This is your review show. I'm your host Khalid, and this is the show where we talk about all the major talking points in South African cricket, but specifically we talk about the day one of the test as well at Centurion. I was live at the game today. As you can see, I'm very tired. I mean, I raced back to come and do the show live for you guys at the time that is reasonable for everybody. I'm thinking maybe we should start doing these shows at 8 o'clock, so it gives me a little bit more time to just get my head around things and just relax before the show. So yeah, let's get straight into it. First and foremost, the main headline of today was AIDEN MARKRAM. The 115 of 174 balls, 18 fours at a strike rate of 66. That was the main headline today. But I think that we need to couple in as well Dean Alga. That's also very important. We need to also couple in that as well. His particular partnership with Dean Alga was what set the tone. But we also have to take into consideration. The pitch. Now we know South Africa chose to bat first. The pitch had a little bit of moisture on and a little bit of grass. From what I looked at the day before, when I looked at the pitch, it was exactly what I thought. It was going to be a pitch that is going to be slower at first and then dry up and get easier to bat on and then get harder after lunch. And that's exactly what happened. Little divots started to appear on the pitch, cracks start to form, and then it's a lot more difficult to bat on. And according to AIDEN MARKRAM as well, he's the type of guy that is very honest in press conferences. And today in the press conference, he explained that. He explained that it was a little bit harder to bat on after the first couple of balls. He noticed that the ball was moving around a little bit more of the seam and of the surface and bouncing and coming a lot quicker through. And it made it a lot more difficult to bat. But I think that the number one thing in this game that turned the whole game is that run out of Tony de Zorzi. That changed the whole innings around in West Indies' favor a little bit, because that obviously brought Temba to the crease and Temba getting a duck. And then from there on out, everybody else also struggled a bit to get themselves going. So ultimately, it was a bittersweet day, as I said in my report, which you can go read on cricketfanaticsmag.com. There's also a review on the channel as well. Currently, while we are busy as we speak, the HD copy of the press conference is being uploaded onto the channel for you guys to watch after the show. If you guys want to get more insight into what AIDEN MARKRAM had to say. There was a specific thing that I really liked, and he spoke about social media and the pressures of social media and why he's gone off it because of the abuse and things that they get on social media as players. So it's something for us as fans to maybe look at and maybe take note of when it comes to this. But the show's not all about me. The show's not all about my opinion. I'm gonna get into the live chat before I bring on the first my co-host on the show as well, and my first caller. You can bundle it into one. Let's get into some of the live chat first and foremost. I can't go right to the top, so I'm going to start at the bottom here, guys. Um, on the Mutasami selection, it's some okay. Wait, let's start with your first tweet, Lawrence. Some of your first live chat. Markram scoring a century, opening the batting doesn't surprise me one bit. He's done 6 times in that position. Hopefully, this conversation about him batting at 4-5 gets thrown in the bin where it belongs. Yes, 100%. I agree with you. I've been saying it for a very long time. His best position in Test cricket is opening the batting. On the Mutasami selection, it's simple. He got picked as a batter. If they wanted spinner, Kesh would have played. The question should be, how does he get into the team over Ryan if they wanted a batter? I think Shukri specifically said to us that he wants a batter, a batting all-rounder specifically. He said it in the press conference actually. So a batter that can have an option of bowling if is an opportunity for that to happen. And I also wanted to see Ryan Nicholson in the team. I was a bit upset about it because I thought that he would be able to really have maybe he would have been able to save us a little bit after that collapse. But unfortunately, they never went with the 7 batters. They went with the safer option of picking Centurion Mutasami as well. Does anyone know why Verena isn't playing? Is he even in the squad? He's not in the squad. He's playing for Western Province currently. I think he scored a 60 odd for Western Province against the Lions at the Wanderers. It's purely subjective. Um, it's purely subjective. That's what Shukri said. He prefers Heinrich Klaassen over Kyle. You also wanted to go with something a little bit more attacking in that position, which you saw today. Heinrich Klaassen tried to play a little bit too attacking, I feel, and that was actually his downfall in the end. So I don't really know if they're going to continue with that type of mindset, but I think he needed to look at the pitch conditions as well and realize that he couldn't go gun ho for every single delivery. Another reason I say Centurion was picked as a batter is because Temba confirmed it at the toss. We're playing the extra batter at 7 in Centurion. That's what he said, and that's exactly what they believed. The fact that he's a batter and he also can bowl, and that's the reason why they picked him. And we have to listen to what they say basically to get an understanding of that. Currently saying George Linder 547 runs at 49.73 in 13 innings, 36 wickets at 20.78 in 14 innings. Centurion Mutasami 702 runs at 29.25 at 25 innings, 49 wickets at 25.71 in 24 innings, the stats of the last 2 seasons. Now, George Linder currently isn't playing for Western Province. I think his girlfriend or his wife, I don't know if they're married. I think they're married now. His wife is giving birth, so he wouldn't have even been available for this test anyway. Just to put it out there. Both Linder and Centurion are good players, but if Shukri is looking for a batting all-rounder type of player, George Linder would have been the pick. But that doesn't mean Shen is a bad player, and that's true, Lawrence. What you're saying over there. Thanks for the stats, by the way. Shukri needs to look after the transformation targets, hence Centurion over Linder. Anyways, Centurion's first-class stats should be okay as per the transformation standards. I don't 100% agree with you on that one. When you looked at their first class averages, their first class hundreds, etc. George has been better over the last 2 seasons, 100%. I think they picked Centurion on how he knows Centurion over a long period of time. Maybe I actually have to ask Shukri that question. I'm waiting for an opportunity for him to come to a press conference or for me to get an exclusive so that I can ask him that question. DT saying Khalid, hope to see you on day 3. Definitely, bro. Please come find me. We can do some fan cams, etc. Because there were no fans in the stadium today, so I didn't really get to do much fan cams, etc. Okay, let's get straight into it. Wait, someone asking me, "Hi Khalid, how much will West Indies score in this first innings prediction?" I first want to see what South Africa end up on before I make that prediction, because tomorrow morning we don't know how the pitch is going to behave, and that will obviously determine a lot. It will determine a hell of a lot on how things are going to work. Okay, let's get our my panelists on the show. We've got Kelly with me. We've got Ravi with us as well. Welcome to the show, guys. Let's start off straight away with your thoughts on the game and where things sit currently. Kelly, I'm going to go with you first, and then Ravi, you can follow Kelly.
Okay, well, obviously, it would have been better if we'd capitalized on that start. The guys, it seemed as though it was quite a difficult pitch to actually get going on, because they seem to lose their wickets as soon as they try to turn on momentum a bit. Both Elgar and MARKRAM. It wasn't the most fluent of starts. It seemed like it was a pitch where you couldn't be totally in. You would struggle to, just maximize your start and play shots that freely. That's what it struck me as, because the guys who tried to up the ante seemed to get out really fairly shortly afterwards.
Ravi? I don't have to cue you. You know how it works here, bro.
Been a while. Sorry. There's that mute button after all. Nasty little mute button. Good evening, everybody. Very, very interesting start to the series. I anticipated that AIDEN would do well in light of this being his home ground, and more so that he is probably one of the more experienced batters in that lineup. This is an all too familiar position for AIDEN MARKRAM as well. So I expected a pretty big score, especially the way the boys were going at it in the first session. But and I think, Khalid, we spoke about this the other day when I think you're going to go join the West Indies press conference in particular. I wasn't sure what the movements were. But my analysis of the West Indies team, and I'm saying this in as biased a way as possible, appears to be one of the more complete squads that they've sent to South Africa. There aren't any major sizable gaps in that lineup. It seems that they've figured out their roster to the best possible extent. I think if I look at John Campbell was like the last or the most recent opener to exit that squad. I think they found a safeguard in the form of Tagnarine Sanderpaul, who's of course the son of Shivnarine. So I expect great things from him in particular as one of the major prospects. Kyle Mayers, I think, has come to the party with the ball. He's quite interesting prospect to see what he can do with the bat as well. He did score a double century on debut against Bangladesh in Bangladesh itself. So this team, I think, is a team that can pull off an upset in the grand scheme of things. But I think you raise a valid point again as well, Khalid, that there are two, I wouldn't say very competent batters, but two guys that can keep the score ticking and can keep the tail wagging. I'm losing analogies here. But in essence, they could certainly pile on some more runs and make it a much more competitive. So, and that will definitely dictate the outcome of this match. Where South Africa ends up as opposed to what the West Indies can put up as a first inning score.
Now, Alzari Joseph did say in the presser that afterwards, after lunch, what gave them the edge is that the pitch changed. They noticed that when they were bowling certain deliveries that they were in the first session, it wasn't doing the same as it was after lunch. And I think Dean Algar and AIDEN had a discussion after that first over or so to say, well, things are changing a little bit here. And we saw Dean change his approach, actually, ramp shots, etc. Now, I think his dismissal was quite stupid. I don't know what you guys think about that, because he played a ramp shot and then they placed the fielder in that exact spot and hit it directly to the fielder. So I think that they are still trying to maybe transition into this attacking style of cricket that they want to play. Tony looked incredible in the middle. The way he handled himself in the middle, he was a little bit nervous in the start, but that run out was such a key moment in this particular innings. Kelly, do you feel what is your thoughts on the collapse?
Well, the thing is, if you get a start, as it's been, as the day went on, it seemed obvious that the guys who got starts sort of had to, carry on. Because it seems to become progressively difficult for later batters, the middle order, to really get themselves set. And one followed the other, and then when Klaassen tried to sort of get himself going, he also got out. So that dismissal of Tony De Zorzi, who looked incredibly comfortable by then, and it was so unnecessary. And I mean, he could have he could cost himself a 50 or 100 there, because he really did look. He looked incredibly comfortable by that point. It was such a silly and an unnecessary dismissal. Probably one of the saddest ways to get dismissed in your debut test, even though he wasn't exactly innocent in it, but
Yeah.
still a pity because he did look good.
So Ravi, South Africa sitting comfortably. I wouldn't say comfortably yet, but they're sitting on a decent total so far. Do you think Marco Jansen and Gerald have it in them to maybe push us to 350 plus, maybe get us closer to that 400 mark? Is that maybe too much of wishful thinking with our Andrich Callas Nokia coming in next?
Look, Andre Cullen is a good one. Yeah, he's gonna play a lot of the bottom hand there. I think that these two chaps can at least put on about 20, 30 runs. As it is already 300 plus after the first day, is relatively competitive on that wicket. But again, even with those 20 to 30 runs, you've got two very informed openers from the West Indies camp as well. Craig Brathwaite, I think he was within the top 10 batters at one point, which was a first for the West Indies in many, many, many years. And that's a huge accolade. And then you've got a guy in the form of Tag Janine that's I keep butchering his name, but I'm pretty sure I am butchering his name. I'm just gonna call him Tag Janine. But he's also looking as a very strong prospect. I know I'm sort of repeating myself in this instance, but in essence, anything above 350 to 400, I think, is a very competitive and a winning score at that. But the challenge that South Africa is going to have is they're going to be bowling against some guys that are in form at the moment. They even played quite well, statistically better than South Africa when West Indies toured Australia last year. So you have to bear that in mind, that the lineup is a little bit more confident. Their away record, while there might not be any significant wins, does bring about a little bit more progress in terms of the scorecard. But it's hard to say. I think a lot is going to depend on what happens in the first session. Al-Zawri's bowling beautifully.
No, he's. I mean, you could. I spoke to some people at the grounds that are used to going to Centurion to ask them a little bit more about the wicket. Okay, and they did say that day 2, day 3, day 4, it gets a lot more harder to bat on, and it gets a lot quicker. The pitch gets a lot harder. The ball comes onto the bat a lot quicker. So with our picks, I think that we can restrict them. But they've got that Chanderpaul boy there that I'm a little bit scared of. So we'll have to wait and see how the West Indies react to South Africa. Okay, we've got a caller. I'm going to get Ashwani on quickly. Welcome to the show, Ashwani. Bro, what would you like to say about the game? Where do you think the match is poised currently?
Yeah, hello to everyone. Yeah, I think South Africa played excellently today. We expect from MARKRAM that he played some solid innings, and I think today is the exhibition of cover drives from MARKRAM. We compare Bauer's cover drive, Virat's cover drive, but I think AIDEN's cover driving are superb today. And one thing which I watch in Adams game today, I think I think the front foot game is little bit more assured when he's batting today, and he's little bit more assured on his off stump today. So I think Markram is you can say that 2018 Markram is again come back, which we actually know Adam Markram. And apart from other batters, I think the Tony Dezoli looks excellent today, and Henrik Larsson too. But I think these two guys the opportunity today. If I think South Africa will 354 3 or 50 350 for 4, it will be good for them. And what I saw in the wicket, I think wicket is excellent to bat, but I think as the day progresses, wicket is little bit quicker up today, which we saw from the spells of Alzari Joseph and the guys like Shannon Gabriel. From West Indies perspective, I think West Indies bowlers have bowled a little bit two sides of the wicket today. They don't bowl that particularly 6 to 8 meter length, which is required in this wicket. They bowl particularly full to the guys like AIDEN Markram, and I think after the day progresses, they found their lengths. If you saw Alzari Joseph, he particularly looks, you can say that, threatening to South African batsmen, and Shannon Gabriel too. So I think South Africa has to score around 350, as you can say that they will be fouled out. But I think for West Indies side, I think the guys like Roston Chase. Obviously, no one talking about him. Roston Chase, Jermaine Blackwood. These guys can, and Joshua De Silva. These low order batters can contribute for them. And from the opening point of view, Craig Brathwaite. I think along with Karuna Ratne, this guy is one of the most underrated opener in world cricket. If you saw from the past 3 to 4 years, I think maximum team is founding out that solid opener, which I think the teams like England, Australia, India, all are searching from that solid opener. But I think West Indies in that point, you can say that lucky, or they persist with the Craig Brathwaite from long time, so he become that solid force in the top of the order. So I think these guys can be crucial for West Indies in batting department. And rest of all, and one last point which I want to add, I think this South African middle order needs to add 2 3 more players. If I saw this middle order, it's I don't think this is their best middle order. I saw the guys like Rickleton, Zubair Hamza. Obviously, is coming back from that suspension, and one or two other guys. I think this middle order can be, you can say that, rectify. Or if South Africa's batting can, you can say that, if Shukri Konrad can found out that middle order guys, I think this team can, you can say that, can be forced to reckon with.
Yeah, let's not get it completely twisted here either, guys. I mean, we should have batted a lot better than we did.
Yeah.
I don't think there was some poor. We actually got ourselves out a lot. A lot of poor shot selections, etc. Like Dean Elgar should have never gotten himself out the way he did. I do think that Timba could have played the line a lot better. Okay, it was a good delivery, but still, he could have played that line a lot better. Maybe positioning himself in a better position, knowing that the pitch is doing what it's doing. I think Tony Dezorzi obviously getting himself out. That was not good at all. And I think that KP as well. I think he should have been a little bit more, maybe a little bit more patient, I think, on that particular ground. I think Shwani also has load shedding in India. We've moved it over there to him. So we've got another caller on the line as well. Liafo, welcome to the show, brother. What would you like to say? Unmute yourself, bro. Liafo. Okay. You can reconnect. I'm not going to waste my time. Kelly, okay. So with regards to our batting, your analysis of it, and where could we have been better in our approach?
Well, the first thing basically is guys getting starts and then throwing the wickets away, especially when they're in a good position. I understand that it might have been tougher to accelerate or play your shots than you might normally find, but I think there was a bit of a lack of application by some of them, even after they'd been in for a while. Guys like KP could have applied himself better. Aiden, even, okay, he'd been in for ages, but like Aiden could have applied himself better and gone for the 150 or the bigger 100. Dean could have applied himself better, not played that kind of shot when he had 100 well in his sights as well. So, and I also think the middle order is by no means set. So, there's Rickelson, who obviously didn't play, and then there are guys in domestic cricket who are also middle order batters who are turning it on. So I think the middle order is probably one of the more competitive sort of areas of the South African Test side. I don't think many of the players there can consider themselves safe, because most of the chasing batsmen are also middle order bats, or could easily slot in there.
Yeah. So you also do feel that they could have applied themselves a lot better. I mean, the wicket was actually good for good contest. Like Lawrence actually says that Pollock said in the comms.
It's not an excuse to say that the wicket it might have been more difficult than your traditional. It gets easy to bat after the first hour, and you can just the first session, and then you can just let your game flow. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a criticism of the wicket itself, because it just makes for more absorbing cricket. And then the guys need to apply themselves. They need to take into account the different conditions they play in, and the application was lacking at certain points. Like, they'd lose concentration, and then a wicket would fall, and not one wicket, then you lose like 3. It's typical of them in this the cycle of the World Test Championship. Never only losing 1 wicket, they'll lose 2 or 3, and that's a lack of application. Like, I don't know why, but there seems to be I don't know, an inability sometimes at the start for them to focus at the start of their innings, or after a while they throw it away. It's been a tendency with a lot of the South African batters lately.
So I'm going to ask this question as a panel question from Lorenzo. He's asking, is there an excuse for Rickelton not playing today? And be honest, I wanted Rickelton to play today. I thought that 7 batters would have been good on this wicket. I said that in my preview of the game. But I also do understand that they want a batter that can bowl. Now, Rickelton is by far the better batter between him and Centurion and Mutasami. I think that 4 quicks is good enough on this particular wicket. They could have maybe added AIDEN MARKRAM with regards to having some spin overs if they needed to spin as well. I would have liked to see that Ryan Rickelton play, but unfortunately that is not the case. I'm going to start with Ravi. Ravi, your thoughts on this question, and then I'm going to go to Ashwani and then end off with Kelly with this question.
Honestly, I agree with Lorenzo. I think Rickelton was the one guy I anticipated should have been selected for this match, and failure of which I would imagine he'd be considered for the next test at the Wanderers. Personally, I'm a fan of Heinrich Klaassen, but not so much for this format, and understandably hasn't had much time as a test player to really consider whether he is a good or bad selection at this point in time. I think it's sub 4 tests that he's been in the Proteas camp. But Rickelton would have been my first choice pick if they weren't going to consider Verreynne as a wicketkeeper batter. And just coming back to some of the earlier comments, because I've noticed a few tweets and a few chats on my WhatsApp line throughout the day while I was at work. There was quite a bit of valid points, as well as a bit of harsh criticism on the nature of dismissals, because I had a chance to look at the replays. I think, case in point, if you watch AIDEN MARKRAM's dismissal, that has to be one of the best Yorkers I've seen, period. That was a beautifully executed Yorker from Alzari Joseph. Unplayable, and I have to say that, and this is my opinion, I think that could have gotten out the likes of Labuschagne, Steve Smith out, even throwing Joe Root there as well. That was a very well masterfully executed Yorker, and it was quite tricky to play a delivery like that. Where I would issue criticism would be, as you say, Khalid, a ram shot in this form of the game. I've noticed a lot of batters are doing that in this format, largely because they want to get that run rate up and to ensure they have a very compelling total by the end of day one. Very recently, as an example, in the first test, England against New Zealand, I saw Joe Root play a reverse sweep of Neil Wagner. And I was like, what are you doing, dude? I mean, you are asking to basically go out here. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, he scored 28 of, I can't remember the exact score, but it was a very high strike rate. And I suspect that's what the South African batters were trying to do. The thing is that we know that the West Indies are going to go in there with a bowling plan of some sort. It's hard to determine what it was, but I'm pretty sure on top of that list was Dean Elgar's reluctance to play the short ball, or the susceptibility to the short ball. I think that's the right way of putting it. And they kept doing that. They kept bowling short to him, and he was playing those sort of short, crabby shots. At some point, he was going to get caught out, and that's exactly what happened. So they clearly bowled to a plan which was masterfully executed, while having bowled very poorly in the first session. So it seems that they reconciled and they ironed out and they realized what the exact weaknesses are of each of the South African batters to consider. And of course, as we know with De Zorzi, that was complete human error. That was a bit of a brain fade. And I think that's just first game jitters. He was a bit too enthusiastic, let's put it that way, after starting off so beautifully. I think he scored about 28 odd runs, I think. But still, I think they were just things that didn't make sense. And as an example, we quite a bit of praise was given for the selection of Centurion Muthusamy, which I tend to agree with and align with. But a silly thing like, padding to a ball that's coming at you at 137 k's an hour and dipping back, and it's pitched outside off stump. That for me was a very silly sort of motive and a silly move on the part of Centurion. And understandably, he doesn't have much test experience, so you kind of expect these chaps to succumb to situations like that. But this is the stuff that costs you the game. This costs you 20 to 30 or to 40 runs extra that could have been obtained on the first day of a test.
Mm-hmm. Ashwani, your thoughts on that? With regard, what was the question again?
Yeah, regarding Rickleton.
Yeah, regarding Rickleton.
Yeah, I think Rickleton's inclusion is very much in the South African squad, and I think the one batter who in the past 2-3 years who's proving in South African domestic record, that is Ryan Rickleton. And the guy, if you saw him closely, he's left-handed mirage of Rassie van der Dussen. If you saw him, so he bit like a left-hander Rassie van der Dussen when he plays. But I think jokes apart, but I think that guy should be in the South African setup, and he deserves it. So I think I don't know what's Muthusamy's domestic record, because I don't saw him that much. Obviously, I think he toured India, I think 2-3 years ago, where I think with Dan Pete he's in the South African squad. So I think I don't saw him that much, and he looks me little bit average player as compared to the other South African batters. So I think he should be in the squad. And one thing which I want to add about this South African batting lineup, I think uh, obviously Tamba is also included in it. When you go to the start, you should make it to the 150s, 200s. That would be lacks from the South African batters from the past 2-3 years, including Tamba as well. Tamba scoring good 30, 40s, 50s, 60s, but I think the one thing which he clearly lacks, that is big scores from Tamba Wooma, because from the past 2-3 years he is the South Africa's best batters, especially in the red ball format. So I want how Aiden Markram is scoring runs there. He scored a big 100 there. So I also want that other South African batters, if they get the chance, they should score good 121, 30 to maximize their scores. So they should look out in that prospect. And coming to, I think, tomorrow's day, I think South African, I think bowlers has to bowl. So I think it will be easy job for them.
Thanks, Shwani. Thanks for
Yeah.
calling on the show, brother. I hope you come on again tomorrow. I'll chat to you again soon. Cool. Didn't even say bye back. Okay, Kelly, your thoughts on Rickleton itself and the Cinderun situation? Because I mean, I'm sure you've watched him for quite a couple of seasons now
Yeah,
and know a little bit more about him. I mean, he did score 49
for
not
against
out
and then
against
didn't
India
play.
and didn't play after that.
Yeah, so um yeah, he's got 8 first class hundreds, and I think the number 7 position is very much what Shukri might want an all rounder in. So it might have been a case of he's gonna play or Vian Mulder's gonna play. Because Shukri had also mentioned wanting an all rounder in the lineup.
Yeah.
And unless you're gonna count Aiden as now a test all rounder, you're probably likely to see one of Mulder or Mutami in the lineup. And I don't think that 7 spot is where Ryan Rickleson would be batting in any event. I think it's going to come down to whether you're going to use him as a keeper and play him instead of Klaasen, or it's going to be KP's spot as well that might come into the under discussion, because his situation is a difficult one. I mean, he was statistically South Africa's second best performing batter in 2022, and he's just coming back from injury. So it's his space. Do you judge him on the 2 innings or so that he's had to play since coming back from injury, or and then not pick him, or do you reward him for his earlier form for South Africa? Because
It's a complicated one.
looking at how he batted, he doesn't look at his best,
Mm-mm.
as most comfortable. But it's difficult to drop someone who was statistically better than several other players that you're definitely going to play. I mean, it seems unfair to the player, even though that's probably the position where I think they would have put Rickleson.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult to drop a player who's coming back from injury when he's been statistically one of your better players. I mean, they put Aiden back in and he averaged 15 last year. So if you're gonna go with it's okay for Dean Elgar and Aiden Markham to continue playing despite not producing anything in the last year, but the guy who actually did produce something in 2022 got injured and now suddenly can't make the team because somebody informed domestically has been given a chance ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it would be. It would be a chance.
Yeah.
Because that spot isn't cemented by any means. I just think it would have been tough on KP, just as it would be, the non-selection is tough on Ryan.
Mm.
Like, I think Rickleson would have been the better pick, but what message would that send, and how do you do that? Like, a player who has, produced for you, do you stick with that consistency, or do you just go with, your recent form?
Yeah. Because I mean, Rickleton for Centurion means you're changing your your approach to the test match. If you're putting in Rickleton in at the top of the order, then either Tony or KP needs to be dropped or whatever the case may be. So it makes things complicated.
And
Neil Govender, thank Sorry, I just want to say thank the super chat quickly before you continue. Thank you, Neil Governor, for the super chat before they disappear. Thanks a lot for that. And Munir Sunday, thanks a lot for the super chat. I don't see any questions. If you guys want me to answer any questions, just put them at the bottom again. Can you continue, please?
I just personally, if KP wasn't showing form immediately, if he looked awkward, I might have, given him more time with the Dolphins, because it was he missed a lot of cricket.
That's spot on, actually.
But he was available for selection. So I mean, it's a tough choice to make, because it's a spot there. I mean, he did well for South Africa when he played. So does he all of a sudden not get picked because Ryan Mickelson's in red hot form, whereas he wasn't able to play during that period at all? It's a bit of, it's a head scratcher. I mean, either way, some players going to feel hard done by, and legitimately so. I don't think that the number 7 spot is the one that Rickelson was going for. I still have a feeling that Shukri might prefer an all-rounder in that spot. So
Yeah.
I think it's 5 or it's 6.
Yeah. Okay, let's get the final thoughts in. I'm just going to read some of the live chats out here. We've got, so we're selecting on sentiment again. Just a few weeks ago, we all spoke about leaving sentiment at the door. I think we're picking to conditions 100%. I mean, Azari also said in the presser that he feels that the pitch will spin a bit towards the end of the match. That spin will come into play. So I think that was also in mind when it came to our selection as well. Picking between the two all-rounders, they didn't go with Vian Mulder, they went with Senna Mutasami. So I'm getting conflicting messages. So Lorenzo, you are saying that Shukri said that he wants a batter, old school batter at 7. And I've spoken to quite a few journalists at the ground today who all kept on repeating it, saying that he wanted an all-rounder spinner at the batting all-rounder at 7. When he spoke to me personally, we had conversations, but he said, yes, that's his ideal selection. But like I say over and over and over and over and over again on this channel, this is not football. You don't just pick an 11 for any single different conditions. It's got a lot to do with how the pitch is going to play and how the pitch is going to deteriorate. And yes, we should have batted better. And yes, the pitch was good to bat on in the first session or so. And yes, we should have put on more on the board. But we can't ignore the fact that the pitch did change, and it's going to change further throughout this particular game. Let's just get a couple of more chats in before I give Kelly the chance to round this conversation up. At the end of the day, Bavuma shouldn't be there. He's a quota player. Thanks. I don't think that is true, Ryan Barry. If you go look at who our top test run scorers have been in the last 2 or 3 years, Temba is right up there. So this is you're mixing up formats, and you're getting a little bit mixed up when it comes to Temba Bavuma in test cricket. He might not score hundreds, but he has scored a lot of 50s and pulled us out of a lot of trouble over the last years in his test career. So I think that is a very false statement that you're making over there. 4 bowlers is enough. MARKRAM as part-timers is Pienaar van Wyk. That's what I thought they would have. That's what I wouldn't have minded that at all, actually. That's why I'm backing. I'm the type of person that I'll say what I think, and I did in my preview. I said I wanted to see 7 batters. I wanted to see Ryan Nicholton play, and I did say that in my preview. But once the team is selected and the coach is gone with that, I'm going to back whoever's there on the field. I'm not going to criticize the players for being selected in the first place. That doesn't make logical sense because they don't select themselves. So I'd rather want the players to play the best to their ability. We can criticize the selectors and we can criticize the coach 100% if we don't agree with him. And that is what it is. I mean, that's how the situation works. But I'm going to back the players when they get selected. Doesn't mean I don't like the players that haven't been selected. It doesn't work like that. I mean, I support everybody and I want everybody to succeed. I don't want anybody not to succeed. Whoever's in the squad, whoever's in the team, put sentiment out the door then and say that you're going to support whoever gets selected. because that is means sentiments out the door. You're gonna support anybody who's going to be able to do a job for you in that particular game. Keegan needs to get dropped if he doesn't do anything in the second innings. That's a bit harsh after he just come back after injury and you give him 1, 2 innings and then you say he must be dropped again. I mean, guys, like let's be a little bit patient with our players and allow them to actually have some time with Shukri and let him work with him. Let him see where the mistakes are and let him work with him. This series is not for Test Championship points because we're out of the Test Championship. It's about rebuilding and finding our new rhythm, our new style going forward. That's how it should be. The problem there is they just block everything. Guys take single and rotate the strike field for Verena. He played well in that past 6 months. It's the one player that I feel sad for is Cal Verena. I think that was a little bit of a swak one that he got dropped out of the team after scoring a couple of hundreds and looking decent. But there's also been games that he hasn't looked good as well at the same time. KP for me needs to start converting. I think that's what needs to start happening. Afzal said, Khalid, what do you think about KP at 5? For me, doesn't cut it at 5. Should have been kept at 3. I know Tony is always a top order batsman, but KP has done a good job at 3. I was speaking to Nono Pongolo today, and we spoken about this particular selection before the game. And I said, I think Tony will play at 3. But because he's a newer batter into the team with a lot of pressure, it would have been maybe smarter for them to maybe move him down to 5 to protect him. And, I've always been comfortable with doing that with a younger player coming in the team, putting him at 6 first or 5, letting him learn how the team works, how his players around him play, etc., and then easing him in. KP has been at 3, played at 3 for South Africa already. Maybe that would have been a good move with that regard. Okay, we're gonna round this up, guys. Let's round this up. Kelly, can you take us home? Your final thoughts and what you think South Africa should do to take back the hold on this match, etc.
Well, hopefully we see some lower order runs. That would be good. New debutant at the crease, Gerald and Marco. Both can bat. I think they're both still there, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully they'll make a few runs. I feel a little stuck with the KP situation because you mentioned him possibly coming in at 3 like he did before, but then him at 5 instead of putting Dazorzi at 5, and Dazorzi has been batting incredibly well in the top order. Do you take the guy who's 2 innings back from injury at 3 or one of the form players of the season?
Good point.
So I think this was also to give Keegan the best opportunity to take his spot back, because by no means is it settled. It isn't. Like the middle order is it seems very open to change to me. I don't think that is necessarily Shukri's ideal middle order. I don't think it's hard and fast or not subject to change. So, I worry a bit about him because I'd even have probably brought Ryan Rickleton in because, I mean, he's been making hundreds for fun, and KP's only 2 innings back. He's had 1 game. I would have possibly just. It's a tough thing to do to a player because there's always a chance that they won't get back in if their spot's taken. I mean, that's how Maharaj came in. He came in during an injury. It was Simon. I believe it was because of an injury. And then the rest is history. He became the number 1 spinner for South Africa and not going to often play 2, and then another player gets sidelined. So it's a tough thing to do, but I possibly would have done it anyway because of how good Ryan Rickleton has been and how rusty KP looked.
Mm.
Because he did look like he looked short of game time, which is probably exactly what he was.
Yeah. I mean, Rick should have played. In my opinion, I thought he should have played. Yeah, so I think we can all agree on that. There's no point in fighting that anymore, guys, in the live chat. Okay, guys, that's the end of the show. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please don't forget to do a couple of things for me. Please subscribe to the channel. Please click that notification bell for all future videos. Don't forget to download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. Also, help us grow and promote South African cricket and help us grow as a company too by becoming a Patreon today. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. And go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all your updates, your reaction pieces, your news stories, etc. on cricketfanaticsmag.com. Kelly, thanks a lot for joining me on the show and co-hosting the show with
Thank
me.
you.
Thanks a lot, Ravi, for coming on, as well as Ashwani for calling in, and to all the live chat guys in the live chat who have been asking us questions and talking to us. Thanks a lot for the super chats, guys, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another live review show. Take care, everybody. God bless and enjoy the rest of your evening. Peace out.